Golf Club Wasteland is a game that utterly understands that nailing a look, feel, style, and crucially atmosphere means that you can have a game that is way more than the sum of its parts and is thoroughly engrossing. And that's exactly what you get with Golf Club Wasteland. Yes, it's a golf game, but it is so much more. And it was the so much more element that kept me playing and replaying and just staying in its world. In this game, you play as Charlie, who's a lone golfer who, by pure accident somewhat, ends up part of the 1% of the population that emigrates to Mars after Earth is destroyed in an environmental disaster. He wants to come back down to Earth and enjoy part of what is now a luxury thing of teeing off on a round of golf across the world's dystopian landscapes. You'll be teeing off from the Arc de Triomphe. There'll be the Gherkin from London is in there. There's like a smashed up supermarket, office buildings, a park. Animals that have mutated are still there too, and they all interact with each of the 35 holes that you have across the course. Now, as this is all going on, you have an entire soundtrack radio station that's playing out from Mars, giving even more of a dystopian vibe. It crosses over like retrowave, synthwave, electronica music that feels and comes across slightly sinister. And then you've got this smooth radio talking as he introduces all of the different things that's going on, references Charlie, who's down having an experience on the golf course, and then brings in other people who talk about their time on Earth. And it's this combination of utterly sinister dystopianism, but also real sadness as people talk about, I remember the time when I recorded my bicycle going through the street, and then they play it whilst you're teeing off down like a street that's got smashed up houses, mutated rats running around in the background. It's really well done, and it sells its aesthetic so well. But alongside this, you're here for the golf. And the golf handles generally really well. It's really simplistic UI. You've got 35 holes, as I say, but they are quite long and they get incredibly complex as you go through the game. The beauty of this is that many of the holes have multiple routes of getting to the end, and this is part of the fun, is going and exploring and seeing what different things do. You aren't penalised too much if you end up just smacking loads and loads of balls and getting nowhere. You can choose to restart from scratch, or if you're in story mode, which is the equivalent of a casual mode, you can, after like 20 shots, just skip and continue on. I personally didn't do that, but the option is there if you just want to see the story play out, which is engrossing enough as it is. The 3 modes that are available are that casual story mode that you can just go through the game with. Then you've got a challenge mode, which requires you to hit under par, using both your skill but also the different puzzle elements that are involved in each hole as well. Sometimes you'll have things like animals that will pop out if you land in certain locations, or there might be pieces of the world that collapses or changes as you tee off around it. Or it could be, quite often there's like pipes that pop out of the ground like sewer pipes that will take the ball and then, almost like a Marble Madness style thing, pop it out somewhere else. And you're like, aha, that's put me closer to the goal than what it would have been if I'd just teed off. So part of the fun is exploring and seeing what happens. And there are specific unique actions, quite often only for that one hole, and you'll never see it again. And that's what I really like about the whole design of each of the levels, I guess you could call them, more than actual golf course holes. The controls themselves are relatively easy to understand. The UI tells you quite easily like the angle of where you're going and how hard you're going to hit the ball. It is quite difficult though when you're pushing at full stretch. It does this little wiggle as if to say that Charlie is on the absolute brink of his strength. So sometimes it's actually better to never go fully 100% of the way across with the left analog stick when you're aiming the shot, so that you get a much more steady and consistent tee. And I'd recommend that as something learned from me, as I was getting like 20 shots per hole at the beginning. But yeah, once you get through story mode, you then unlock a graphical novel that then tells you more about the world that you're involved in from different perspectives. And then you also get the option to scan a QR code and download the soundtrack, which I thoroughly recommend. This game is utterly more than the sum of its parts. It might look cool and you might go, oh, it's a golf game and it's just got a few holes in. But that whole wraparound of the audio, the world that it sells, the feel of it, I didn't expect to be emotionally attached to a golf game. What was this doing to my soul? And it's left a real lasting impression with me. I played this through initially the first time in one sitting through the night. I could not stop. And that is the mark of a game that just has its hooks in you. And when I finished, I wanted to go back through and try and get under par on the levels that I didn't do it on first time round, so that I could be like, yes, I need to see all of this story and immerse myself in it, because I just found it so engrossing. So consider this a 2 thumbs up extreme recommendation. But be aware that this is a game that is about the whole holistic vibe of what's going on here. Don't come here expecting a golf game that is going to absolutely wow you with its like crazy ball physics. It's not that kind of thing. Written review will be over on highplanegames.com. Pick this one up, it's a stunner. Take care all, bye bye. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.